what's up, you guys? So today I'm going to be discussing A Torch Against the Night, which is the second book in an Ember in the Ashes series. So this book overall was pretty good. I can't decide if I liked it more or less than an Ember in the Ashes because I kind of had the same issues with this book overall, but I did think that it was still a very good book and I do highly recommend it. So this book is about what happens after an Ember in the Ashes. So in this book, Leia and Elias, they are trying to go rescue Darren. That's pretty much the basic synopsis of this book. So that doesn't really spoil much of an Ember in the Ashes, I don't think, hopefully. So anyways, this book picks up where that one leaves off. It's so action-packed in the beginning again, because it literally, like, seconds after the last one ends, that's where this one begins. So like, you are going through an action sequence in the beginning of this book. So now let's kick it into some of the things that I really liked about this book. So I absolutely loved the inclusion of Keenan as a character. I loved his characterization and I loved how he kind of changed and developed throughout the story. And I liked how my perception of him changed and developed, because I really started off thinking of him as very shady, and then I kind of started to doubt that a little bit, and then, you know, stuff happens. So I really loved Keenan. I really loved all of our Leia and Elias moments. I do think that overall the relationship is underdeveloped, but I do like the moments that we get. I just wish that we had a few more of them so that I could really see them build their relationship so it doesn't just feel like it's kind of insta-lovey. I also liked Helen in this book a little bit more. I still don't necessarily like her or think that she's a good person by any means, but I like that she started to develop more, and I think that we are starting to see what is going to be her redemption, because in this book she really does go through a lot, especially towards, you know, like the end of the book. So definitely gonna see some changes in Helen in the next book, so I'm super pumped to see those and figure out where she's gonna go as a character. I also like how in this book the intensity was really starting to build. The world, it is not a good world by any means at the beginning of the series, but it is not getting any better in this book. It is just intensifying. And I also really love everything that happens once we get to the prison. I think that's where this book in particular starts to really pick off, because oh boy, is it just a stress fest from then on out. I also really liked the Nightbringer because I thought that he started to develop more, and through that we got more world development. I loved Izzy in this book. I thought that she was a fantastic character, and I love like the things that kind of happen to her as a character. Like, I don't necessarily love what happens, but I do love like that SABAA TAHIR isn't afraid to go there, you know what I mean? So that was great. Definitely some emotions were felt in this book. What I didn't like, again, goes back to my same issues with the first book. I don't like how kind of weirdly slow it is at the beginning, because it's not that it's not action-packed, it's that it's not really gripping as far as the story is concerned, because you don't see the story yet. Like, it's kind of like you're just starting a little bit too soon in the action. Like, start me off with a little more direction, start me off a little closer to that inciting incident, start me off with a little bit better of a setup, and then I'll probably like the beginnings of these a little bit better. I just think that they need a little bit more polish. I also don't like how much Helen still needs to change by a lot. Like, I think that she is set up for a major change, but I wish that we started to see some more subtle changes in this book, but I don't think we really saw those. I think we just saw her start to realize all of the problems in society, and I like that. Like, you need to realize the problems in order to address them, but I think that she needs to start changing mentally and not just, you know, how she perceives things. I also found the Commandant to be a little disappointing in this book. She was kind of painted as being very bad, very evil in the first book, and I was just prepared for her to do something really terrifying in this book, and she just didn't do anything. Like, she was there in name only, and she did not accomplish anything as far as I'm concerned. Like, she did nothing. So I wish that she had done a lot more. I wish that she had been a little bit more involved in the story, and not just in a like, oh, she shows up kind of a way. Because that's kind of what it was like. Like, she just kind of showed up, but then she didn't actually play into the conflicts at all. Like, she just seemed underused in this book to me. So that's kind of all of my non-spoilery thoughts on this book. So I'm going to delve into my spoilery section. If you don't want to be spoiled, leave. If you do want to be spoiled, stay. If you've read the book, stay. Let's do it. I'm just gonna kind of go through some events in this story. I'm not really gonna go in order by any means. So the first scene that I wanted to talk about was the scene where Helen's family dies. Like, that was the most emotionally impactful scene to me. I was like, oh my god. Like, when Hannah died and like her last words, I was like, oh, Hannah. because like that was just such a sweet thing. Like that was such a great moment of change, and like something like that is where I'm okay with like an almost 180 change in a person, because she had like 2 seconds to react to the fact that she was going to die before she died. And so in those 2 seconds she, you know, noticed her regrets and she showed that, and I thought that that was such great character development for her, even though it was kind of done in the last moment. I think that that was just so great, and I was so pumped like that we got that, and it just was so emotional because I just could not imagine like Helen, like she was just so broken by that, and I think that that is going to set her up for such a great change in the next book. But I'm so hopeful that it turns out okay for her, that she's able to change and be a better person and actually become someone that I genuinely think is good and not someone who is not good. So we'll see what happens with her, but oh gosh, her poor family. And then when Marcus said that he knew about the commandant's plan, I was so salty. I was like, dude, like I'm aware that you don't really trust Helen, but like, why not tell her? Like that's such a waste of your knowledge. Like you need to trust people, and like who do you trust if not your second in command? So that was just a little frustrating. Marcus overall, he is really starting to scare me, and what he did with saving Olivia just so that he can like torture her to use for Helen, I was like, that's not okay. Like it's such a tough call. At least she's alive. I mean, that's all she's really got going for her, but like, oh boy, I'm so pumped for Helen in the next book, because this book just set her up for such a great arc in the next book, and I'm so nervous that's going to disappoint me and she doesn't really get that redemption that I need from her. Okay, next let's talk about the whole Elias getting poisoned arc. Okay, those types of plot lines, like that's another one of my problems with this book, is I just did not care for that particular plot thread because I didn't see him dying ever. Like even though he was poisoned and we started to get characters die in this book, like I just didn't see him dying because he's like one of our main 2 characters. Like you can't kill him off. Like that's not gonna happen. So him getting poisoned was just kind of annoying. It was more of a nuisance to me, and it more just hindered Leia and Elias's ability to like develop their relationship, which was what was frustrating for me, because I really feel like their relationship is so underdeveloped, because they kind of just have like a few scenes where they kind of talk to each other and that's it. Like they don't have any kind of build. It's just kind of stagnant to me. So I don't like that as much. And I just was not here for the whole poison plot line. Like that just irritated me. So I was just like waiting through every scene where he was like, I'm struggling. I'm poisoned. Because I'm like, I don't care. Okay, now let's talk about Harper and the fact that I think him and Helen are developing a thing. Theirs is at least developing, unlike Elias and Leia's, where it felt like it was just kind of boom. Theirs at least is starting from a place of like not liking. So I'm pumped to see how their thing kind of changes, but I am kind of nervous for it because it's hard for me to be like, go get together you two, because he literally like tortured her for a week. So it's just hard for me to kind of justify them two being able to like get in a relationship and be okay together. So I'm hopeful that their relationship develops naturally to me, and like it's not like that whole torture thing was swept under the rug. Like I want it acknowledged, like why he did what he did and that he's a good person, you know? Like I want to understand where he's coming from a little bit better so that he doesn't seem like a crappy person. But then again, Helen isn't that great. So like 2 crappy people together, is that really something that should bother me? I don't know. It might. So next let's talk a little bit about the whole scholar revolution thing that was going on. And I was like, oh my god, this is bad. Like the revolutions were fantastic. The problem was the Empire's reaction. Like this Empire is so not good. The fact that it's taking this much for Helen to see that this Empire is problematic, I'm like, girl. Really? Because like, dear God, they are like doing a full-on genocide of the scholars. And I'm like, no, don't do that. It makes me upset, okay? Like, I think it would make anyone upset, but like, it makes me upset. I don't like it. I want it to stop, but I don't see how it's gonna happen anytime soon. So like, the scholars are gonna be down to like 10 people by the end of this series, and that's just gonna be how it's gonna be, and that's terrible, and that's upsetting, and I actually like that whole twist, because it really is what is raising the stakes in this whole series, because it's not just about our characters, it's about like this whole people, this whole race. They're like being exterminated. And so the story it's growing from being about them to being about saving a people. I've said pumped so many times in this, but I'm so pumped to see how this further develops, and I'm hopeful that we still have some scholars left at the end of the day. And I like how the tribesmen are starting to revolt a little bit as well. Like, they're starting to not be as happy with where they're at, because as the scholars get killed off, like, they don't know how to live without slaves, so they take slaves still, but now they're starting to do it with the tribes. And so I like to see just this intensity building so much. So next thing that I wanted to talk about was the fact that Leia can turn invisible. That's awesome. I'm excited to see how that gets used. I loved how it was used in this book. I loved how it was developed in this book. And I loved how she couldn't use it around Keenan. Keenan wasn't on my list, but I'm gonna talk about him now. Oh boy, did I absolutely love him in this book. Like, he really tricked me. Like, I knew that he was shady in the first book. Like, that's what he came across to me as. I was like, he is the spy. But I did not see him being the Nightbringer. And I love how we got that story behind the Nightbringer and what he's trying to do with the star. It honestly felt kind of like Inuyasha for me. Like, I don't know if any of y'all have seen that, but in Inuyasha, there's like a demon thing that gets broken, and so it's in a bunch of shards. And so they're just hunting down these shards in Inuyasha. Great show. Highly recommend. So fun. But anyway, that's what this felt like to me. And so I was just so here for that development. And oh boy, I just loved how she really loved him and he really loved her. And that's kind of what made it possible for him to get that piece of star, because like, that's such a cool development and that's such a cool character trait for him. And I feel like it really deepens him as a character, so he's not just like the bad guy. He's like the bad guy with really messed up emotions. So now back to the commandant. She was just disappointing in everything that she was in. When she like tried to stage the coup or whatever, I was really disappointed with that overall. Like, I was so disappointed that Marcus knew about it. I was just unimpressed, honestly. Like, I would have loved for Helen's family to have been killed and then the commandant to have done her coup thing. And then Marcus realized that he was wrong, but still hold Libby like captive like he's doing. So that's kind of how I would have liked to have seen that go a little bit better. I feel like it would have been a little bit more intense. It would have made the commandant feel a little less useless, because she really did just show up in this book and then dip out, like in every scene. Like, even when she like attacks Elias and poisons him, she shows up and she dips out. So it was just annoying to me whenever I would have a scene with her, because I was just like, I know you're not gonna do anything. Like, okay, so now let's talk about when Elias left, and I was just like so upset. I was like, I want y'all to develop your relationship more. But then Elias leaves. I was like, no, stay. And then everything with him and the Soul Catcher, I was just like, can we not, please? I want you to have some time with your girl. But that's not gonna happen, it seems like. It seems like they're just doomed to be doomed. So it's fine. But Elias left. I was upset. Leia was upset. But I think that that was really necessary for Keenan and Leia to further develop their relationship so much more. I loved when Keenan caught up with Elias and Leia. Like, that was such a great scene. I loved Elias's reaction, how like upset he was. And I was like here for it. So now let's talk about probably the most depressing part of this book for me, which was when Izzy died. I did not see that coming at all, especially because she was starting to develop a relationship with the tribe woman's son. And I was so shocked. I didn't expect it. And when Elias saw her in the waiting place, I was like, oh. Like, she was such a great character. I teared up a little bit whenever she died, because I did not see it coming. And the fact that she stuck with it and Izzy was really dead. Like, she wasn't just like kind of dead as some characters do, or like she didn't just stay in the waiting place, like she moved on. Like, that was just gut-wrenching. I loved Izzy, man. I'm gonna miss Izzy in the next book. So anyways, that was my thoughts on A Torch Against the Night. If you like this video, please like, subscribe, comment your thoughts on A Torch Against the Night. Who are your favorite characters? What were your favorite scenes? I'll see you in my next video. Bye!